This week, as I was preparing for this day, I came across a phrase that I thought was a perfect way to start an Easter sermon. And the phrase was this: if this resurrection business is not hard for you to believe, you're probably not paying attention. If this resurrection business is not hard for you to believe, you're probably not paying attention. I think many of us come on Sunday, Easter Sunday, and we're kind of expecting the great music, the incredible preaching, full church, and all the accoutrements that are so important to us. And they are important. But I also think that it is about the resurrection. And if we just kind of glaze over that reality, I think we miss the point. But this resurrection business is not easy. And if we don't have some questions about it as we hear it, I don't think we're paying attention. And just look at the story we hear this morning. I mean, here are the disciples, the women as well, who are going into the tomb, and it's empty. And so you've got, Mary Magdalene and Joanna and Mary as well. And then also you've got Peter. And none of them go into the tomb and go, oh yeah, he said he was going to do this. Not any of them. And they were there with him. And he said it. This is going to happen. And not one of the disciples, not one, believed like that. Not one. And so, if we look at Luke's gospel, we hear the last thing is that Peter goes in, and then he goes home, and he was amazed. That's kind of softening it a bit. Mark's gospel, which is thought to be the earliest, and the original ending of that one has, and they ran away terrified. Makes sense to me if you think about this resurrection business. The disciples doubted. They weren't sure. But we need to remember, perhaps especially on Easter, that doubt is not the enemy of faith. Fear is the enemy of faith. And if you think about the disciples' response, this kind of hesitancy, this doubt, this wonder, this fear, can we really blame them? Resurrection isn't simply a claim that Jesus' body was resuscitated. It's the claim that God entered this stage of human history in order to create an entirely new reality, which quite frankly can be terrifying. Let's face it, we have some beliefs in our kind of way of being, and if they change, it can kind of be unsettling, to say the least. For example, if the dead don't stay dead, what can you count on? Resurrection, seen this way, breaks all the rules. And while most of us will admit that the old rules aren't perfect, and sometimes the old rules are downright awful, at least we know them. They are predictable, a known quantity. And in this sense, these old broken rules are comforting. And resurrection upsets all of that. Think about it. We live in a world that literally banks on scarcity. That literally banks on the scarcity model. Our economy and way of life is predicated on the idea that you can never, ever have enough of anything. Think about it. Going to see many advertisements during March Madness today that say, don't buy this, you have plenty. And it's not just stuff, but we have actually turned love into a commodity where we actually think it runs out. It's such a shame. Resurrection turns this scarcity model upside down. The powers that be, both in Jesus' time and in ours, do everything, including murder, to silence the reality of resurrection living. That indeed there is enough love and enough God for all. On Easter, we celebrate the resurrection, this resurrection living. And at the heart of that resurrection living, we celebrate love. It is at the top of the list of resurrection realities. And love is a resurrection reality because it shuns the scarcity model in the most incredible way. The only way that love runs out is if we cease to practice it, if we cease to share it. The irony is that you simply cannot kill this resurrection reality of love. What we celebrate on Easter is that ultimately love wins. There's a great image about the resurrection and about an image that kind of encapsulates Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. And it's the image of a dandelion. You know those seed heads that'll be shooting up in your yard real soon that we try to get rid of? Well, it's been said, and I love this image, that killing Jesus to stop the spread of love and the message that all are welcome and that there is enough, this resurrection reality, by killing Jesus, it was like blowing on that dandelion to make sure that dandelions ceased to exist. Think about it. Isn't that an incredible image? Because what we do as humans, we get afraid and we start to go like this. And we go, oh, we got to control everything. And this image that those seeds go everywhere, even in the midst of this death and resurrection. Today, our great opportunity is that we are invited to practice resurrection living. To practice it. The church has been hung up for a long time on what people believe. And my limited experience on this world, people can believe just about anything. Really. They can believe anything. But the proof is in how we live. And so, while belief is important, I think practice, the practice of resurrection living, is what we are invited to. We are invited not only to listen to the story, but to live it. Will we accept this mind-blowing offer? Will we accept the offer to live as if the Easter world were true? To refuse to be bound by the closed-in tomb of this world. To stop making excuses and start doing things boldly. To give ourselves to causes that matter. To simplify our lives so that we can really be present to it. To work to make a difference in this world in the few short years we are given on this earth. It sounds so good, so full of hope, but we hesitate, we worry, and we doubt. Take heart. We are in good company. Remember the gospel? Remember the disciples? That's where they began. They began in fear. They began in confusion, in wonder. And at their best moment, they began with amazement. They were were slow to change. And we are slow to change. Yet eventually, they stopped running. They stopped running and turned around and made a choice. And they chose resurrection living. On this day, may we be so bold, so brave, so merciful, not only to the world, but to ourselves, to do the same and choose resurrection living. Amen.